Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Sadashiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Ramo Rajamani Sada Vijayate Ramam Ramesham Bhaje Ramena Bihata Nishacharachamu Ramaya Tasmai Namaha. Ramannasti Parayanam Parataram Ramasya Dasosmyaham Rame Chittalaya Sada Bhavatu Me Bho Rama Mamuddhara Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Satgurum Brahma Vidwaram Satgurum Brahma Vidwaram. Om Apyayantu Mamangani Vak Pranaschakshushrotramatho Balamindriyani Cha Sarvani Sarvam Brahma Upanishadam Maham Brahma Nirakuryam Ma Brahma Nirakarot Anirakaranamastvanirakaranam me astu Tadatmani Nirateya Upanishatsu Dharmaha Te Mayi Santu Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Yadi manyase suvedeti dabhramevapi nunam tvam vedha brahmano rupam yadasya tvam yadasya deveshu athanumimam syamevate manye viditam naham manye suvedeti no na vedeti vedacha yonastadveda tadveda no na vedeti vedacha. Hari Om. We had seen in the beginning of this second chapter that the teacher is trying to shake the student's understanding. He wants to make sure that the student has not understood Brahma even with a trace of objectification. He has understood Brahma as his own nature because that is the only way for dukkha nivritti. If duality remains, Upanishads say that is a fundamental cause of sorrow. Dvitiyatvai bhayam bhavati. Upanishads say it is a fundamental cause of fear. But more simple words if you want to say. If I see something as different from me, that is when all this parampara starts. Avidya, out of that discontentment, which leads to kama, and that kama leads us to karma, actions. Those actions again bring karma phala, and the cycle of birth and death, transmigration continues. So that is why we should keep reflecting, why is Upanishad Rishi so particular? What was the need for second chapter to again start when the entire teaching was given by the end of the Upasana mantras that we saw. Tadeva brahmatvam vidhi nedam yadidam upasate. By that everything was taught actually. Mahavakya is also given. But for us as sadhakas, these mantras are very helpful to make sure that our understanding aligns with Upanishadic understanding. Okay. So then came another mantra where the student, after hearing this from the teacher, he went in solitude, did his own Mananam, and we saw what are the ingredients which we need for Mananam. Just to show us that, this connection is to show us that merely by listening to Upanishadic mantra, our conviction in this truth will not come. You would have heard this statement from Puja Gurudev in many of his quotes. He would say, merely listening to Upanishads will not do anything. But we should appreciate what he said after that. What he would say after that is, one should reflect on this truth and internalize it. Right? Merely listening to Upanishad is not sufficient, does not mean that listening to Upanishad is unimportant. That is the first step. Right? Without Shravanam, what will we think about? Regarding any topic, if I have to do Chintanam, if I have to do Vichara, I need data to churn. So over here, all Upanishad mantras, different mahavakyas, they are that is our data. And the churning is reflection on mahavakya. In other Upanishads, it is said, just like you churn buttermilk to get butter, like that we should churn all Upanishad mantras with this rope of knowledge. Okay, and then revel in that essence of Advaita. Or another example is given of this, Arani. There are two cups which are rubbed against each other, and one spark comes from that. It is caught in a small cotton, and that is used for Homa and Yajna. So like that, there should be insights in Vedanta. That spark is not something mystical. That spark is representative of when we think about Vedanta, then what was just in a book, what I had just heard, suddenly that knowledge is appealing to me more and more. That knowledge is making sure that it can help us come out of different experiences, different frame of mind. Those are the steps towards Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti. That is where this second mantra came, Naham Manye Suvedeti. If you just look at this mantra superficially, it looks as though the student is confused. First the teacher was confused when he said, Na vidmaha, na vijanimaha, second mantra. On one hand, he is giving the teaching also, then he is saying, we don't know how to teach. So that we had seen, teacher is saying, we don't know how to teach as an object. We will have to use these cryptic words so that we can reflect upon it and know Brahma to be our own true nature. So over here, the student also is following the same method. He is not directly saying that I know it, but he is using these indicators and saying the same thing which was said in Mahavakya by this mantra. This mantra we had seen over here, it's the same mantra, just with the color. Naham manye suvedeti. So he's telling the teacher, I don't say that I know Brahman very well. Why? Because only something which is vidita, which is an object, that object can be known very well. So I've understood Brahman to be different from all Nama Rupa. Nona Veda iti. But it's also not that I don't know Brahman. Okay, one side is I don't say that I know Brahman very well, nor do I say that I don't know Brahman. Why is that? Because Brahman is ever experienced as Aham. all other experiences are possible because of Chaitanya. Okay, so I cannot say that Brahma is totally unknown to me. Veda. So therefore, I know it and I don't know it. That cha refers to I don't know it. So I know it as aparichinna. I know it as devoid of all conditionings. That Brahma I am, in this way I know it. And I don't know it as any object outside. Yonas tadveda, nona vedeti vedacha. And then he says, whoever amongst us brahmacharins, whoever amongst us students, all of us, whoever understood this, that person has understood Brahma. Okay. He's not saying out of arrogance. He's saying because I am restating mahavakya. And if somebody has understood what I said, that means they've understood mahavakya. Nona vedeti vedacha. What did you say? He says the same thing. That I don't know it and I know it also. Okay. Now we had seen that in the Bhashya portion of this mantra, that the teacher again tries to shake him the second time now. What does he say? You said, Naham manye suvedeti. So the teacher said, it looks like you have some doubt. Otherwise, you would not have said that you know something, but then you don't know it very well. What did he say? Naham manye suvedeti. And the third sentence was Veda. Right? So between first and the third sentence, he says there is a contradiction. Only when you have a doubt about something, you will say that I know it, but I don't know it very well. Teacher is saying this. Upanishad Rishi, he is saying this, trying to shake the understanding of the student second time. Now the student is not shaken. Then Bhagwan Shankaracharya introduces what is it because of which he was not shaken. Okay, then he points out three things. Four also you can say. What are those four things? One is mahavakya heard from teacher. So knowledge of mahavakya is very, very clear. He is not confused if somebody says something else. And he is not feeling arrogant also, because he knows that this is knowledge from Sampradaya. Right? He is not feeling afraid also of saying that Naham manye suvedeti in front of his teacher. Why? Because he knows that this knowledge has come from Sampradaya, and when my teacher taught me, he also taught in the same way. That is why you should go back to the second mantra and appreciate how all these things are included in this second mantra. Na tatra chakshur gacchati, na va gacchati, no manaha. After that portion, na vidmaha, na vijanimaha, yathaitadanushishyaat. So this is Sampradaya style of teaching. Even the last sentence, the teacher says, iti shushruma purvesham yenastad vyacha chakshire. So whatever I'm going to tell you, or whatever I have told you, that I have heard from my teachers. So I have no hesitation in saying, you are Brahma. No hesitation in saying, Jagat is Mithya. So that is Sampradaya Balam. And Agama is this statement, Anya Deva Tad Viditat, Atho Aviditat Adi. In Mahavakya also, knowledge has become very clear. So this is his first, pillar that he is holding on to. And actually speaking, we will not get questioned like this, right? Nobody will come and ask us, Yadi manyase suvedeti, the Brahmevatma. We will have different situations in life where we will have to use this knowledge of Vedanta. And while we try to use it, there will be many doubts, there will be many questions that come in our own mind or other people will ask. Sometimes they will think that Brahman is a person. Just like you have Mohan, Sohan, like that they will say, now you are looking for Brahman. And we also start wondering, what am I looking for actually? So whatever little Shraddha is there, whatever little faith is there, that also can get shaken. So how to not get shaken in our Vedantic knowledge? Those are these indicators. Okay, the first one is Agama, second is Sampradaya. This together, you can say it falls under Shravanam. That's why I said you can boil it down to three things also. In Shravanam, these are the two main things, Agama and Sampradaya. Second one is Mananam, which is more logic oriented. You will use different kinds of logic, which is given in Upanishad only. And third one, Anubhava, that can be categorized under Nididhyasanam. Okay. So under logic, what is the main ingredient there? Whatever is the Lakshana of Brahma, we are trying to eliminate all other things by using logic. Okay, there are several dimensions of using logic, but in simple words, we can understand it in this way. That one example of logic is this: whatever is known as an object is finite. Right? So through this, I'm eliminating all finite things. Because Brahma is not an object, it is different from finite. Another logic is Chaitanya can never be unknown. Right? So Chaitanya is ever experienced as Aham. Now for these are all Pratijna Vakyas. We have studied Anumana Pramana. So that will be helpful over here. So this, we have not given all the 5 avayavas. Right? You make Pratijna, then you give Hetu, then you have example, Drishtanta for that. And then Upanaya and Nigamana. We don't have to do 5 things every time, but just appreciating that when we use logic which is in line with Upanishad, then our Mananam becomes more and more stronger. Right? One form of discussion or Mananam is about sadhana portion. Right? So that is also one type of Mananam. But Mananam in Vedanta is very different. It is just trying to use logic so that we can abide in Atma. Last one is Anubhava, where we pointed out that Anubhava is not another unique experience. Okay. We had seen this in Tattva Bodha. If you split the word Anubhava, it is split as Anu and Bhava. Anu means Paschat. So that which is gained after, that thing is called as Anubhava. Now you say, after what? So after Pramana Vyapara. Once I have done very clear Pramana Vyapara, that conviction which rises after that, that is called as Anubhava. What is the Pramana? Upanishad Pramana. If you want to put it in even simpler words, whatever is said in Upanishad, that becomes true for me because I also see it in that way. Now Upanishads say, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya. I might have heard about it, I might have done Mananam about it, but there is a chance that my conviction has not become very strong yet. So when this sadhaka himself can say the same thing which is there in Upanishad, that part is called as Anubhava. Anubhava means not we are going to have Anubhava of Atma. These are fundamentals. If we go in the other direction, we'll end up in some other darshana. Vedanta says Anubhava is ever there of Atma. All we need to do is know the nature of Atma in its true sense. Not mixed up with conditionings, not having any other, conditioning mixed up with this Atma Chaitanya. If you want an example, we should go back to the 10th man story. I won't repeat the story. You know that 10 people were there, and then they crossed the river, and now they are lamenting. The 10th man has drowned. Now, while that wise person came and said, 10th man has not drowned, don't have to worry and cry and so on. And then he pointed out, Dashamaha Tvamasi. The question we should ask is, did they have the Anubhava of the 10th man after they heard this and they understood that I am the 10th man? Or was the Anubhava of 10th man there all the time? Even while they were, crying or thinking that this 10th man has drowned, it was only because of the 10th man they were even able to say that thing. Right? 10th man was they themselves. So Anubhava was ever there. So what did this statement from that wise person do to them? It made sure that all their sorrow is removed, because in their mind they were thinking, due to ignorance, that this 10th man is drowned. So the wise person is representative of Upanishads, or you can say Guru, mahavakya. All of that is represented by that wise person. Now when the 10th man is having the same understanding as that wise person, he will say, now I have Anubhava. Not only I have heard, but I have used logic, but now I have Anubhava of this 10th man. But Anubhava not in colloquial sense, not that now he has started experiencing. It was as though not experienced because of ignorance. And after Anubhava takes place, even if other doubts come, even if others say something, this person is not shaken. Right? He says, I am the 10th man not only because I have heard it, but I have firm conviction in it. Okay, so that is this word Anubhava. Why are we so particular on this? If we take Anubhava to be some unique experience, we will make it fall under some mystic category. And first thing what will happen with that is, we will think Anubhava will come at some time, Anubhava will come in some place. And what is Vedanta trying to say? They say, you are Atma, in you there is time appearing, in you there is space appearing. So don't go to some place or some time trying to seek Anubhava of Atma. Okay, so it will fall under mysticism, and that is when it will be more of a struggle. Okay, that is why we elaborated this. Now, the same portion, whatever we saw on the slide, Bhagavan Shankaracharya is mentioning in this Bhashya. Evam acharyena vichalyamanaha api shishyaha na vichachala anya deva tadviditat atho aviditat adhi iti acharyokta agama sampradaya balat upapatti anubhava balat cha jagarja cha brahma vidyayam drudha darshayan atmanah. Now the student is not shaken again. Why is it so? Because of all these things. Acharyokta agama sampradaya balat upapatti anubhava balat cha. I'll not repeat it again. We have just seen on the previous slide. Katham iti uchyate. What did he say? He said, Yaha Yaha kaschit, out of all the students seated here, naha, naha means asmakam, amongst us. Sa brahmacharinam madhye tat maduktam vachanam tatvatah veda saha tat brahma veda. Amongst all the students who has understood my statement, whatever I have said, that one who has understood, they have understood nature of Brahma. So Brahma is Nitya Jnana Swarupa. It is always self-shining. It can never be unknown. And it is not an object. There is no Kriya in Atma, in Brahma. That is why it cannot be known as an object. This one who has understood, that person has understood nature of Brahma. Now the last quarter of the verse is elaborated. Kim punaha tad vachanam iti ataha aha. Jagarja was said, right? He roared. What did he roar? So the same thing what he had said earlier. Nona vedeti vedacha. Yadeva anyadeva tad viditat ato aviditat adi iti uktam. Tadeva vastu anumana anubhavabhyam sanyojya nishchitam vakyantarena nona veda iti vedacha iti avochat. Acharya buddhi samvadartham manda buddhi grahana vyapohartham cha tatha cha garjitam bhavati tatha cha garjitam upapannam bhavati yonas tadveda tadveda iti. So what he is doing here is he is bringing three things together. What are the three things? What he has heard in mahavakya, that thing. Shruti, whatever. This should be Upapati. It is still written as Shruti. Logic he is bringing together, and his own anubhuti, those three things are together. Or in other words, you can also say mahavakya, what he has heard from Upanishads, that is the first thing. What his teacher has said, means teacher's conviction. That is the second. And third one is his own conviction. These three things are brought together. This is that line. Tadeva vastu anumana anubhavabhyam sanyojya nishchitam vakyantarena. Whatever was said in mahavakya, that only he is telling in his own words. Vakyantarena means that. Having done this mananam, having had clear understanding of mahavakya and teacher's words, he is again saying it back in his own words. Why is he saying it? Because if teacher has asked something, he has to respond as an answer. But important word is acharya buddhi samvadartham. He is not having Vaada, not Jalpa, not Vitanda. There are different types of debates. Samvaada is where we put a point in the hope of understanding the topic better. So with Guru, this Shishya is always doing Samvaada, like between Bhagwan Krishna and Arjuna, between Uddhavji and Bhagwan Krishna. So there is Samvaada. Question is asked, Arjuna is raising many objections in between, but not in the sense of refuting Bhagwan Krishna. So he says, this mantra, we should not misunderstand that the student has become arrogant. Yonas tadveda tadveda, nona vedeti vedeti. Not in that sense. So he's wanting to have samvada with the teacher. Acharya buddhi samvadartham, manda buddhi grahana vyapohartham cha. And he also wants to eliminate this understanding that the student has not gotten anything. The teacher should not think that the student is manda buddhi. That is why he says manda buddhi grahana vyapohartham. To eliminate this notion also, teacher has taught for 12 years. Those gurukulas might be longer duration. And after 12 years also he says, I don't know Brahman, means just like any other ignorant person would say. That also he doesn't want. Manda buddhi grahana vyapohartham cha tatha cha garjitam upapannam bhavati. That is why this garjana, this point that he put is very valid. Okay, so this main portion is connecting the dots between mahavakya, between logic, and between our own anubhava. Between what Upanishads are saying, what the teacher is saying, and what is our understanding. That is the path to dukkha nivritti. Now, after this, the story portion has been kept aside. And there was a teacher, then the student came, asked a question, Keneshitam padati preshitam manaha. That portion is kept aside. Now, Shruti Maata herself concludes this entire portion. This is the connection with the next words. Shishya Acharya Samvadat Prati Nivritya. Nivritya means retired. You have Nivritta Adhikari. In northern India, sometimes the nameplate will have that. Nivritta means retired officer. So having kept aside this Samvada, the dialogue between Shishya and Acharya, Svena Rupena Shrutihi Samasta Samvada Nirvrittam Artham Eva Bodhayati. Now Shruti Mata on her own is giving the essence. What is the main conclusion out of this entire discussion? Samasta Samvada Nirvrittam. Now these are two different words. Nivritti and Nirvritti. One ra makes a lot of difference. Nivritti means retiring, means taking back, keeping it aside. So that is called as Nivritti. Nirvrittam or Nirvritti means the essence. What is the final culmination? What is the final conclusion? That is called as Nirvritti. Artham bodhayati yasyamatam ityadina. Okay, now one mantra, the 1.2, Anya Devatad Viditat, that was teachers understand. In the second chapter, the second mantra, what we saw, Naham Manye Suvedeti, that was students understand. Now Shruti Mata herself is telling it from her side. Okay, so those three things are now connected. Next mantra we'll see. Yasya matam tasya matam, yasya matam tasya matam, matam yasya na vedasaha, matam yasya na vedasaha, avidnyatam vijanatam, avidnyatam vijanatam, vijnatam avijanatam, vijnatam avijanatam. It's a very reassuring feeling when the teacher also repeats the same thing that the student had said. So here, as though Shruti Mata is again emphasizing the same thing that the student has just now said to his teacher. Okay, this mantra is also similar, so it should be easy to understand. Yasya amatam tasya matam. Take it, part by part. One who has the conviction that Brahman is unknown. Okay, yasya amatam tasya matam. That person has understood correctly. Samyak darshi, that person is, he has understood Brahman correctly. Okay, yasya amatam vishayataya amatam. To whom Brahman is unknown as an object, that person has understood correctly. Matam yasya na vedasaha. One who has a conviction that I know Brahman, for whom Brahman becomes known, that person has not understood. He doesn't know. He is still mixing up some conditioning of mind, of this physical body. Some object is there that he is mixing up in this Brahma, because of which it is becoming drushya, it is becoming an object of knowledge. And then he is saying, I have known Brahma. Matam yasya na vedasaha. Now Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji in his Bhashya clarifies. He says this mantra is not discussing about ordinary people. Ordinary means ignorant people who have not thought about Brahma. They would not even make this statement. What is that statement? That I know Brahman very well. Or even the statement, I know Brahma. This statement, ordinary people will not make it. So this mantra is not referring to them. He says this mantra is referring to all other darshanikas. Philosophers, Sankhya Darshana, Yoga Darshana, Vaisheshika Darshana, Charvak Darshana. All of them have understood Atma as known. Why? Because some conditioning has been included. Taking on the conditioning of this ahankara. They said this Atma is kshanika. Taking on the conditioning of this mind, some other indicators of Atma were given. Taking on the conditioning of this jiva, it was said this Atma goes from one loka to another loka. So to all those darshanikas, this Shruti mantra is addressing. Matam yasya na vedasaha. So Saha is referring to whom? Saha is referring to very great people. They are also great philosophers, great darshanikas. We'll see that in Bhashya, but at this point we should just appreciate. Another thing you'll notice is, although every mantra looks similar, there is a lot of new things which are there. Okay, one reason of repetition is so that we don't miss the point, that gets more ingrained in our understanding. But another part of repetition is something new is brought out every time. Okay, that part also we will see later. Avijñātam Vijyanatam, third quarter. For knowers of Brahman, Brahman is unknown. Means it is without any conditionings. That is how they know Brahma. Vijñātam Avijanatah. For those who have, for those with erroneous knowledge of Brahma, for them Brahman is known. Who are those people? Avijñātam. Avijanatam, Vijñātam. Those people who have erroneous knowledge of Brahma, because they have mixed up these conditionings, they think that Brahman is known. Okay, these are some simple translations for this. Now, what is the unique part? I'll mention this. Again, we will see that when the Bhashya comes. You see the second line, Avijñātam Vijanatam, Vijñātam Avijanatah. Now, Bhagwan Shankaracharya says, this second line is not a mere repetition of the first line. He says the second line is the reason for the first line. What is the first line? Yasya matam tasya matam, matam yasya na vedasa. And if you literally read the second line, it is just a translation or it's a repetition of it. What did the second line say? Avijñātam Vijanatam, Vijñātam Avijanatah. Okay, those who have understood clearly, for them Brahman is unknown. And those who have erroneous understanding, for them they think Brahman is an object which is known. So here, Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji had a student whose name was Anandagiri ji. And his tuning was with Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji was such that any line Bhagwan Shankaracharya would write in Bhashya, he would write another tika where he would say, why is Bhagwan Shankaracharya written that line? And he will elaborate. He will give all the cross references. He will say, this is what my Acharya is thinking. This is why he has written that line. Bhagwan Shankaracharya only wrote a very small line. What did he say? He said this Avijnatam Vijyanatam Avijanatam. That is the reason for this first line. He did not explain why it is a reason, in what way it is a reason. So now Anand Giriji, who is very quietly watching his Acharya, whatever things he is writing, he notices that he has not elaborated this, line. So he writes in his commentary, what is the meaning of this second line? Avijnatam Vijyanatam Avijanatah. He says, when you have understood the nature of the shell, silver shell example, when you have understood the nature of the shell, the superimposed silver which is there, that becomes unknown. Means that becomes negated. You don't give any reality to that silver. But for those who have not seen the shell, those who have not recognized the nature of the shell, for them silver is still real. They say, I know that silver, in that way. Okay. What is the main idea? Once you know the substratum, the superimposed is unknown. Means it is negated. So now come to the main point. Avijnatam Vijanatam means once somebody has known nature of Brahma, whatever Drushya Prapancha is there, that becomes unknown to them. Why? Because it is superimposed and it is understood as Mithya. Then they will say Avijnatam Vijanatam. But what is Avijnatam? One is Brahma is not known as an object, that is one thing. But this world of names and forms, that becomes Avijnata to them. Then come to the next one. Vijnatam Avijanatam. Those who have not known the nature of Brahma in its true form as unconditioned, for them, they have mixed up some conditioning and they will say, I know Brahma. What they are knowing is Jagat only. Right? That which is not there, that thing only they will understand as Brahma. Just like this person who did not know the nature of shell, that person thought silver alone is the reality. So that, he says, is the reason why the second line has come. That is the hetu. That is the hetu for the first line. Yasya matam tasya matam matam yasya na vedasaha. Okay. The main point is all these mantras need lot of reflection. Okay. And there are different layers of meanings to it. More we think about it, something new will open up. Now, Bhashya is the same portion, so I'll go a little quick on this. Yasya brahmavidaha amatam avijnatam aviditam brahma iti matam abhiprayaha nishchayaha. Yasya means of that brahmavit, first quarter of the verse. Yasya matam tasya matam. Of that knower of Brahma, what is his conviction about Brahma? What did he arrive at after doing Mananam? What he arrived at was that Brahman doesn't become an object of Mananam. It doesn't become an object of our mind. That was his conclusion. If he has reached there, that is the right conclusion. Yasya amatam avijnatam aviditam brahma iti matam. That is his understanding. Abhiprayaha nishchayaha. That is his conviction. Tasya matam. That person has understood. For that person, he is called as Samyak Brahma iti abhiprayaha. His name is also Brahmavit Samyak Vetta. That is his name. But he has understood Brahman in the right way. Yasya punaha matam jnatam viditam maya brahma iti nishchayaha. One who has understood Brahman as an object, or he thinks that I know Brahma. na Veda saha, na Brahma Vijyanati saha. That person is not knowing Brahma correctly. Why? Because some drushyatva dharma, some kind of objectification has unknowingly creeped in. Vedanta, we say we should keep doing Mananam. Just now we saw what are the ingredients for Mananam. Everything was there. What this Bhashya is telling is, purpose of Mananam is to get this conviction that Brahman cannot be thought of. Most importantly, if you ask the question, who is doing Mananam? You say, I am doing Mananam. So that Manta, the one who is doing Mananam, that Manta alone is Brahma. Don't become an Ahankara and then understand that this Brahma is something different of whom I am doing Mananam. Okay? That is the final culmination, the conclusion. Brahman doesn't become an object of mind. So then what is the Mananam we are doing? Mananam we are doing is to arrive at this conclusion. That to negate everything of this world outside, including this mind, including this individual, Ahankara, what remains after negating everything, that is Brahma. Okay. There are some lingering traces of objectification. That is what this teacher is trying to take out. Upanishad Rishi, in particular, this is now Shruti Mantra. Now this erroneous and correct understanding is further clarified. Vidvad avidushoho yathoktau, which is the sandhi here, paksha vadharayati. Ayadi sandhi, pakshav avadharayati. Pakshav avadharayati avijnatam vijanatam iti. Avijnatam means amatam. Okay, that which is not known as an object. That is why amatam aviditam eva brahma. Vijanatam means for those people who are samyak viditam, samyak viditavatam. Those people who have understood Brahman very well. For those people, Brahman is avijnata only, not known as an object. Vijnatam viditam brahma avijanatam asamyak darshinam. For those people who are asamyak darshi, who have not understood Brahman correctly, for them, Brahman is vijnata, Brahman is vidita. Now here Shankaracharya ji clarifies, Indriya mano buddhishu eva atma darshinam ityarthaha. Means we are not talking about ordinary people, we are talking about great darshanikas. When they started inquiring into what is the nature of Atma, some of them ended up with physical body, like Virochana. They said Deha alone is Atma. Some of them ended up with sense organs. They said sense organs are Atma. And there are Upanishadic quotations also, and logic can also be given. This we will see in Vedanta Saram. All darshanas are brought in, and it is pointed out how different schools of thoughts have different understanding of Atma. Some said mind is Atma, some said Ahankara is Atma. All of them are included in this word Avijanatah. With due respect, they are not being criticized or anything. That's why he writes again, Shankaracharya ji, he says, Natu atyantam eva avyutpanna buddhina nahi tesham vijnatam asmabhihi brahma iti mati bhavati. If it is completely ignorant person, first of all, they would not even inquire into Brahma. And they will not make that statement, I know Brahma. In whatever way, even if it is as vidita, even if it is as an object. So those people will not make a statement. So whom we are referring to are great darshanikas, they are great rishis. We had discussed this earlier. Now this is not a phonetic statement. When it comes to tattva vichara, there has to be Nishchaya. Nishchaya means firmly you have to conclude what is the nature of truth. You cannot leave it ambiguous or say, I want to make everybody happy. This person is also right, that person is also right, third one is also right. Yoga Darshan is also the same thing. Sankhya also is the same thing. Vaisheshika is also the same thing. And Vedanta is also the same thing. All darshanas are together when it comes to sadhana. Right? All darshanas are together when it comes to living a moral and ethical life. When it comes to dharma, there is no conflict between any of them. All of them will say we should be dharmic, sadhanas will be given. But when it comes to their main siddhanta, what is the nature of Atma, there they'll be very particular and very respectfully put their point. Like Bhagwan Shankaracharya ji himself raises different points of other darshanas. And then he will answer them. That is how we'll say Vijyanatam Avijanatah. If you say Atma is Parichinna, if you say Jagat is real, then still we will hold on to this fact that you are Avijnata only. But not on his own. He says, I have not invented Vedanta Darshana. Sampradaya Balat, it has come through a tradition, and Agama Vakya is saying that thing. If we are interpreting it differently, then we can sit down and discuss. What is the misunderstanding? What is the point that you had made? What is it that Vedanta is making? That is what is called as, Purva Paksha, all different Vaada happens there. Bhashya is not Samvaada Pradhana because you're discussing with other darshanas. So there they want to establish their point, so it is Vaada Pradhana. Okay. So what? Just a summary of this one. What is the correct understanding? Three things. One, it is not an object. Second, it is unconditioned. Third is, it is not different from me. If this is what is the conviction, then we will fall under Samyak Viditavatam category. Those have understood Brahman very well. What is erroneous understanding? Some kind of objectification arising out of mix-up of conditionings. Okay, either mind or physical body, that they have taken as Atma. And third is thinking that Brahma is different from me. Means I am not Brahma. There is some wonderful Brahma which I will go and become one with. Okay, so this is the distinction. Now Bhagwan elaborates, I am not, simply criticizing or saying something against other darshanas. Where did they go wrong? Why did other schools of thoughts conclude that Brahma is known or Brahma is conditioned? This is main thing what happened is they were unable to separate Brahman and these conditionings. Conditionings are known as an object, and that got mixed up with Brahma, and they thought Brahma is also known as an object. That is the main essence. He says, Indriya Mano Buddhi Upadishu Atma Darshinam tu Brahma Upadi Viveka Anupalambhat. We have studied many Viveka, right? Nitya, Anitya Viveka. So that Viveka, if one is not doing it very carefully, then some Anitya Vastu will get mixed up with Nitya Vastu. He says that is what happened. Buddhyadi upadescha vijnatatvat viditam brahma iti upapadyate bhrantihi iti ataha asamyak darshanam purva pakshatvena upanyasyate vijnatam avijanatam iti. Whatever conditionings were there, buddhi or any other upadi, they are known. They are known as an object. Vijnatatvat viditam brahma iti. And because this upadi was mixed up with Brahma, the conclusion became Brahma also is Vidita. Means what are the repercussions of not understanding Brahma as unconditioned? First repercussion is it will become an object. And why are you so particular that Brahman should not be an object? It is different from an object. It is drashta, not drishya. So we are not knowing what we are getting into. If you say Brahma is an object, any object which is there, it will undergo modification. Any object, it will undergo modification. And the final modification will be vinasha. It will get destroyed. So what are we striving for? That Brahma which is subject to modification, that Brahma which is going to get destroyed. So that is why we are so particular. Don't objectify Brahma. If you objectify, then all these things come along with it. That is what he says is Bhranti. It is not Prama, it is Bhranti. Asamyak darshanam purva pakshatvena upanyasate. This asamyak darshi is presented as the other view. What was the second line? Avijnatam Vijyanatam, Vijyanatam Avijanatah. So that Avijanatam people who are there, Asamyak Darshi who are there, they would know Brahman as this way. That is why it is given. And now Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji very silently puts this one sentence. He says Athava, or the second sentence is not a repetition. What is the second sentence? Uttarardaha avijnatam ityadi hetvartha. The later part of that mantra is the hetu. It is the reason for that first line. Now we would not understand anything what he meant by this. Bhagavan Shankaracharya ji did not elaborate. He just said Vijyanatam Avijanatah, that second line which is there, that is the hetu for that first line. Okay, you can look at the mantra again. Yasya matam tasya matam, matam yasya na vedasaha, avijnatam vijanatam, vijnatam avijanatam. So starting from avijnatam vijanatam is the hetu. Now what is the hetu? The hetu in simple words is when the substratum is known, the superimposed becomes unknown. Okay, this we have seen earlier. That's why I'm quickly summarizing it. For the one who knows the shell, silver becomes unknown. Okay, it is negated as though. So that is in the example, the meaning of that word, avijnatam vijanatam. And the later part is vijnatam avijanata. For the one who has not known the shell, who is that person? The second category, avijanatam, one who has bhranta darshan, one who has not understood nature of that object as it is. For that person, silver is very well known. He gives reality to it and transacts with it. Okay. He says that is the other meaning of this statement, avijnatam vijanatam, vijnatam avijanata. Now when it comes to Brahma, we should apply the same thing. Okay. For the one who knows Brahman, the world of names and forms is negated, or it is unknown. So that is the meaning of that, this quarter, avijnatam vijanata. And for the one who knows, or one who has known, one who has not known Brahman as unconditioned, for that person, the world of names and forms is very well real. That is why he is called as avijanatam. They won't be able to say Jagat is mithya. Except Bauddha Darshana, all other darshanas have taken Jagat to be Satyam. In some way or the other, they will end up with this understanding that Jagat is Satyam. Okay. So this concludes the third mantra. Now the fourth mantra is one of the most important mantras of Kenopanishad. This is that mantra on which entire Drigdrishya Viveka is rooted. Entire Drigdrishya Viveka is based on fourth mantra. Okay, that we'll see in the next session. But if you felt that these mantras were a little confusing, don't worry about the bhashya part. The main essence which is there, the main themes which we saw, that we should remember. It is better to get confused and culminate it in right understanding, rather than staying with some simple thing and having some erroneous understanding. And you'll realize if you just go back and recap, right, whatever slides are there, whatever points we saw, it is not confusing actually, because that words are very convoluted. Same word gets used in different context. That is why it looks confusing. Okay, if there are questions, you can turn it in the Google form. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Okay. I'm glad some of you are looking at other cross references. Yes, you can do that. Dakshinamurti Stotram. But you'll have to come and explain to me what was the cross reference. If you write 4 words, then I don't know where it is referring to. Okay. How to understand that saints like Ramakrishna Paramahamsa Ji, who seem to indicate that all darshanas are revealing the same truth. Could it be dangerous for a serious Vedanta student to draw some conclusions about truth out of devotion for saints like Paramahamsa Ji? How should one understand lives and teachings of such saints? The way that I have looked or understood this from my teachers is this. When it comes to sadhana portion, right, when it comes to being devoted to Bhagavan, there all darshanas have many things to contribute. Compared to somebody who is, either in rajasic or tamasic state, very extrovert, compared to that person, all darshanas are, at a very high level. They're much, better than following this kind of life. But it's a journey on our quest for this truth, that we want something more after that. You see, dharmic life, we are already trying to practice living that. So then when the jijnasa becomes very strong to know the nature of Brahma, our main pramana becomes Upanishad. Keeping Upanishad as pramana, whatever other views are there, whatever anukula, whatever is being said in line with Upanishad, that the sadhaka takes. Only when we study that darshana, we come to realize all the very fine differences. Darshan is a very elaborate topic. When we studied, Swamiji taught us in almost 30 sessions. 30 sessions, introduction, not even going into every darshana. Just the key ideas, that if you are studying Sankhya Yoga Darshana, what are the main things that we should know in this darshana? And one thing you'll notice there is, nature of Atma is different for all darshanas. Although every darshana is striving for Atyantika Dukkha Nivritti and Paramananda Prapti. Okay. So when it comes to those finer things, there we cannot say every darshana is saying the same thing. Not to get into conflict or anything, that we are trying to refute other darshanas, put them down, nothing of that sort. Because every darshana has a lot of contribution for a healthy society. Right? Even Dvaita Darshana, they have their own contribution. In that, everybody is together. But when it comes to Siddhanta, there are differences. Okay? And all darshanas thrived in Bharat Desha. That was the beauty of it. Bauddha Darshana, Jain Darshana, Sankhya, Yoga, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, all of them, great acharyas came, because all their viewpoints were very much encouraged. Not for us to change our viewpoint. Bhagwan Shankaracharya did not change, but he would discuss with all of them and then conclude. That is why he got the title of Jagat Guru. Jagat Guru means not any other, qualification or any other title, not one who is very popular, not in that sense. Jagat Guru means the one who understands all darshanas. If Nyaya scholar comes to him, he can talk to that scholar in Nyaya language. And the beauty of Shankaracharya was, he would explain Nyaya Darshana to Nyaya scholar. There are some portions where he is elaborating to the other, scholar, how he should understand Nyaya Darshana. What are the difficulties that they had in resolving in their own darshana? Bhagwan Shankaracharya resolves it for them and then refutes it. If you read the book Shankara the Missionary, there all these things are mentioned. Sarvajna Pitha, where he got this title of Jagat Guru. Kashmira Puravasini, Namaste Sharade Devi. In Kashmira Desha, there was this Sarvajna Pitha. There when he went, this discussion was there with different scholars. I could not follow the part, who does Mananam? How is it that Brahman does Mananam? No, Brahman does not do Mananam. What is said in that part of Bhashya is, we should do Mananam to come to this conclusion that I am that unconditioned consciousness, not this ahankara who is doing Mananam. Okay, how do we start? We start by this journey that I am this sadhaka. I am this individual. I want to do Shravanam. I want to do Mananam. I want to do Nididhyasana. But this I, in the beginning, it will always be finite. As this Jiva only, I am a sadhaka. But after listening to Vedanta, after doing Mananam and Nididhyasanam, conviction should be, I am that Brahma, not this individual doing Mananam. That was the purpose of Mananam, not to think about Brahma as something else, of whom I have thought very well. Puja Guruji puts this very nicely. He says, this is a quote from Samskrita, Yena tyajasi tat tyaja. We use this ahankara to negate everything. We use this mind to study Vedanta, discuss everything, understand mahavakya, everything we did, and entire creation was negated, should get negated. But after that, this mind, this individuality which was used for that, that should also be included in this Jagat. In what we are negating, that part also should be included. Yena tyajasi tat tyaja is used for that, wooden stick. When you do some holika dahan or something, with that wooden stick, you gather all other sticks, right? You light the fire, and that stick also you put in it. You don't want to leave it aside. So that fire consumes everything. So that stick represents this ahankara or the mind, with which everything else is negated. But after that, this sense of individuality should also get negated. I should not remain Manta of Brahma. I am the one who is thinking of Brahma. I can elaborate it very well. He says, no, purpose is dukkha nivritti. Purpose is to know I am that Brahma. Okay. Hari Om, Hari Om. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Hari Om, Shri Guru Pyo Namaha.